baby channel, click on the like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. This is absolutely insane. I'm about to expose how bad and left-wing media. A lot of the left-wing media folks love to talk about the boogeyman. Mainstream media, they're so bad in mainstream media, and we're real independent media, and independent media is so great, and you gotta watch independent media. Well, I'm about to expose that definitively as an absolute joke. And here's why. First of all, let's talk about what happened today. And if you didn't hear about this, that's part of the problem. And we'll explain why. Today, there were over 1,200 hands-off protests across 50 states. This event was also international. There were groups across the globe who also participated in the protests. The numbers that I'm hearing is that there were 500,000 people nationwide. 500,000 people nationwide. Washington, D.C., New York, Boston, Chicago. There are also rallies in Berlin, London, Paris, and Stockholm. Now, I want you to consider how much you've been told about how fascism is taking over, and we're going to lose our democracy, and this might be the last election, right? This is the first major move as a fight back against what's happening. A fight back against what we're being told in left-wing independent media. Corporate media as well, but more so in independent media, right? They've told us how things are dire, right? Here's CNN. We're told by certain people in right-wing media, who I refer to as liars, I'll let you have your own opinion, they tell us that liberal media is DNC media. It's partisan. It's all about promoting the Democrats, right? Well, the biggest move coming from the left to fight back in this moment where we're told that our democracy is slipping through our hands, the biggest movement, I don't see a single video on CNN. This is supposed to be Democratic Party media. No coverage. And by the way, let's be clear. This event was not a Democratic Party event, right? But we're told CNN is left-wing media, right? The left tells us that fascism is taking over, Trump's a fascist and all this kind of stuff, right? So, obviously, they are hungry for any kind of fight. 500,000 people rose to the streets today. CNN, no coverage, but this is supposed to be left-wing media. That's what people like Ben Shapiro claim. MSNBC, definitely more partisan than CNN. Definitely, if you want to talk about Democratic Party media, MSDNC, as Trump likes to say. I don't see a single video. 500,000 people in the streets in this moment where MSNBC will tell us democracy is slipping through our hands, right? Trump is a dictator, yet MSNBC chooses not to be on top of one of the biggest protests against Trump and Elon Musk in 2025. But listen to right-wing media, MSNBC, they're DNC, right? Okay, you can say what you want to say, or we can look at reality. Reality is they didn't cover it. Why would that be? Why wouldn't MSNBC want to, represent the left and the left wing and fascism? I mean, that's what they've been saying. They've been saying fascism, 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 right? And then a major movement in the streets. Where's MSNBC? You think they didn't know that there were protests today? I think they know. Not saying there's not going to be any coverage. Not saying there isn't any coverage. You might find some stuff on their website. That's a trick they do. CNN.com probably has something. That's a trick that they do. That's how they cover something without actually covering it. If you're a typical CNN viewer, you don't even know there's protests. You don't even go to the CNN website. You just watch it on your TV. And on your TV, you don't see no protests. You don't know nothing about what's happening. So there was 500,000 with mainstream media not even really covering it. Imagine what would happen if mainstream media was actually, the Democratic Party media, they're, right? Now, don't get me wrong. CNN and MSNBC are absolutely partisan. They absolutely pander to liberals and the left, but not as much the left, more so the liberals. But they do it from a profit standpoint, not from an ideological standpoint. They are not with the left. They are not with the progressives at all. They're with the capitalist class. They're much more with the Republican Party. They are focused on profits, not ideology, which is why when the ideologically accurate thing to do or consistent thing to do is to be out there in the street showing people fighting back against Elon Musk, not a single video. Let's go to the Young Turks. This is the home of the progressives. Home of the motherfucking progressives. Not a single video about the protests. This is a huge network, not just some YouTuber. They got a studio. They have a whole bunch of staff, right? And these protests were all over the country, so they could have went to the one in California or one of the ones in California. I'm sure there were multiple, right? They got people there. Where's Anna? Where's Cenk? Where's any of the people from the Young Turks? Nowhere to be found. But they want us to focus, oh, mainstream media, oh, mainstream media. Well, guess what? Just like mainstream media, or let's be more accurate, for-profit media, right? Just like most of the for-profit media, you're not there, right? You're not there. You're not interested. You don't care. Oh, this might be the last election and fascism, right? 500,000 people hit the streets. Where's the Young Turks? Nowhere to be found. You got time to make videos talking about Francesca is being banned from the channel, right? You got time to make videos talking about, I forgot what they call it, Billy and whatever. Billy and Ted or whatever. But you don't have time to cover the biggest protest event of the year, pushing back against Trump and Elon Musk. I wonder why. Could it be just like MSNBC and MSNBC and CNN? I can't even talk. Just like them, that you're focused on profits. A lot of the rhetoric you put out, you don't really mean it. I wonder. David Pakman, he's a progressive. Surely, you know how many Trump rallies David Pakman covered live? Do you have any idea how many Trump rallies David Pakman covered live? How much money David Pakman made from covering Trump rallies live? $500,000. David Pakman is very wealthy. He ain't like TYT in terms of the size of his business, but he's got enough money. He could easily, in his sleep, just hire someone to go to the local protest, shoot some footage. Actually, not even shoot it. Plan a live thing where he's not even involved. David Pakman could have played Nintendo all day today. Meanwhile, you can see on his channel these protests live because he has a guy out there streaming live to his channel, not even with David Pakman commentary. Matter of fact, David Pakman has had many people come on his channel and do coverage for him. So he could actually have somebody on there. He could have the Ring of Fire guy. He could have Luke Beasley. He could have so many people. They could have been there and, oh, here we are covering the protests because fascism and whatever. And we actually believe this stuff is a serious thing. But David Pakman is nowhere to be found. I wonder why. But let's focus on the mainstream media. Mainstream media is the problem. Oh, the mainstream media, corporate news, the mainstream media, the corporate news, right? Where the fuck is independent media when we have the biggest event this year fighting back against Elon Musk and Donald Trump? Nowhere to be found. Brian Tyler Cohen. He's a very interesting character, right? This guy actually put some of his money where his mouth is. I'll give him credit. He's done fundraisers. I mean, I think being in the media, you shouldn't be doing fundraisers, right? You should allow people who are doing fundraisers the platform, come on my channel and talk about your thing, but you should be objective and just talking about the news, but that's not what he is. He's a propagandist. He is a progressive propagandist, pushing an ideology and challenging another ideology. That is what he does, right? But in this moment, he would tell you, oh, fascism and this and that, and we got to this and that, we got to fight back, or whatever. Where the fuck is David Pakman? But it gets worse than that. The first video I showed you I'm sorry, I said David Pakman. Brian Tyler was a Brian Tyler Cohen video. I literally started this video with a Brian Tyler Cohen. That was a short. So he got a short. I don't know where that's somebody video that he stole, or did he hire somebody to do it? Was he actually at an event and he covered it? I don't know. But this is a guy, I'm sure, covered a lot of Kamala Harris events live. Kamala Harris events live. I don't know if he covered Trump rallies. Probably did. But the biggest rally against Trump and Elon Musk and Brian Tyler Cohen, the most we could get out of him is a short video. Okay. Let's continue. Ring of Fire. Voters abandoning red states, cancer something, Trump whatever. Nowhere to be found. Ring of Fire. Majority Report. Oh, surely the Majority Report. You watch Emma Vigeland on there talking so and a democracy, and he's a fascist and this. Where is she? Nowhere to be found. Let me tell you something else that's interesting. If there was any violence at any of these events, I bet you anything, the right-wing media, they will cover that, right? They will cover that. In fact, maybe they had somebody that was live at these events just waiting for something to spark off, right? Maybe the feed was private, so they don't want to show you this stuff unless something goes down. I mean, that's probably not what they would do. They'll probably just have somebody there, trying to stir up trouble or whatever. And then if something goes down, record it and instantly upload it so that somebody can put up on the channel like, oh, the left is violent and they're doing terrorism, right? So the right wing, I'm sure, were more eager to cover this event if some violence happened than left-wing media, broadly. Interesting. Rational National. Well, he's Canadian, so he shouldn't really be caring so much about American politics. Washington Post. Nothing. Axios. Nothing. So, that brings us to status quo. Status quo were at this event, covering it live, right? They thought this was important enough to go out there on the streets in the rain and cover 500,000 people protest an international movement. Now, I want you to reflect back on all the talk from your favorite left-wing media folks about how this is a critical moment and democracy, we might have another election, and fascism is taking over, and this is so scary. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to in any way whitewash or act as if their statements were not accurate. What I'm highlighting to you is whether or not they believe it is, or, more importantly, whether they care. Because they could believe what they're saying, and I think that's the case for most of them, but why would they care? Most guys are blowing up right now. They are making so much living, essentially, from the demise of this country. The worse things get in this country, the more money they make. The worse that Donald Trump is, the more content they have, the more money they make, the more engagement, the more people get glued. Oh my goodness, what Trump doing now? Oh, Trump did this, Trump did that, some other scandal, whatever, right? So they benefit from the chaos, right? So while you're worried about paying your rent, paying for groceries, you're worried about health care, because you just work a regular job and you might be about to get laid off. Maybe you laid off already. Maybe you're depending on Medicare, right? Maybe you depending on some kind of government services. Maybe you're a veteran like myself and you're relying on some kind of VA programs or something like that, and you're worried, you're nervous. These people are not worried. They're getting paid. David Pakman, Brian Tyler Cohen, the Majority Report. These people are getting paid. The worse things get in this country, the bigger their bank accounts get. They're not with us. They like to make mainstream media the boogeyman, but for-profit media is the problem. When you're covering the news for the purpose of generating profit from a capitalistic standpoint, socialist media or progressive media, for-profit business, a capitalistic business, it's easy for you to do exactly what the mainstream media does. You think those multi-millionaires on CNN and MSNBC, you think they're nervous about, oh my goodness, but with healthcare and layoffs and whatever. They were struggling. And then Donald Trump won. And I'm sure they all celebrated. Like, great. They're like, great. They were worried, oh my goodness, if Kamala Harris wins, we're done. She's going to be so boring. People are already running away. They're not interested. We're not getting the ratings that we need. And then Kamala Harris is going to come in, and whatever she do, it's just going to be, boring, right? She's going to make some speeches. Opportunity economy. Like, nobody's trying to watch that, right? Nobody's trying to watch that. But when Trump this and signal scandal, I mean, don't get me wrong. Again, I'm not whitewashing. This stuff is very serious. But it's also from a news media business standpoint. If you're in the business of covering news, it's good for your brand. Trump is excellent for your brand. Right now, a lot of these left-wing progressive channels are breaking. The money is just out of control right now. In the moment that the rest of us are afraid, we are anxious, we are so stressed out, what's happening for the future, worried about our children, the people in independent and corporate media, right now, they are in a boom. They're in a boom, especially the independent media folks. Because on the corporate media side, if this dies down somehow, whatever, end of Trump's presidency and the normal person gets in office, then it goes back to the reality that their business model is struggling. But these new media folks, right, this boost that they're getting, right, they're going to be more likely to continue, not at this level, of course, but they're more likely to be sustainable than the CNN and MSNBC people. If you wonder how Donald Trump won, I've just illustrated to you part of the equation that no one wants to talk about, because the people who would tell you about this is a conflict of interest, because they themselves are part of the problem. For-profit media, whether it's independent or corporate, they are part of the problem. Now, don't get me wrong, Status Quo definitely are operating for profit, but unlike the other channels, one distinction of this channel is that they've chosen to do the hard work. The easy work, the sexy work, is to just focus on, whatever's trending, and look what Trump did, and this and that, and this and that, and Gaza, whatever, right? But to actually go down and talk to people on the street, do interviews with real people, talk about the Flint water crisis, talk about something localized issue that's happening in some Midwestern state. Their drinking water is poisoned, right? And you've seen some poor people out there saying, "Oh man," the reality is that's not the sexy stuff. That's not what's trending. That's not what people are excited to click on. But they kept at it, right? They looked at, I'm sure, I don't know these people, but I could just imagine there were many times that they were looking at their bank accounts and saying, man, I don't know how long we could survive like this. But they kept at it. They could have changed up and just went the other. They could have changed up and went the other route. They chose not to. And after years and years of hard work, this is their reward. 436,000 subscribers. 14,000 likes. I want you to notice the pattern that I've told you guys about before. I almost feel like the more views you have, the bigger subscriber count. I feel like that's not a badge of honor, right? Because generally speaking, what's going to be popular? It's just like with, you look at, food, right? What is more popular? Fast food, hamburgers and fries, right? Or salad, carrots, right? What do you think is more popular? The junk food, right? So when it comes to news media, What's going to sell, what's going to get you views is more the junk. The quality is not going to be the thing that's going to be the most profitable. So, the largest channels with the most subscribers. I'm not saying this is this is always going to be the case. It's not like a for sure thing. If you have a lot of subscribers, then you're no good. But generally speaking, the most likely path to getting the most subscribers and most views is going in the opposite direction of quality, right? A channel like this that covers the more serious stories, things that all these others aren't covering because it's not profitable to do so, right? This channel in some ways almost runs like a charity. That's the difference, right? That's the difference between for-profit. If we had media, and people bring up the points of PBS, and I don't know that much about PBS, and maybe there's some things to explore there, but if news media was less for-profit and more just about the news, you would see a lot of more stories like this because you would cover what's important, not what is going to get you views and engagement. So you're going to go and cover some, water crisis in some place in the middle of the country that no one's ever heard of, right? It's going to be worth your time to go out there and spread the word and talk to the people. But if you're a Young Turks, you're David Pakman, you're Brian Charlie Cohen, right? It's not profitable. You want to focus on what's going to get you clicks, what's going to get you engagement, what's going to get you paid, right? However, one good thing on Status Quo's side is they don't really have any competition, right? So they're not covering the stuff that's sexy, but there is an audience for people that want to hear about these serious stories. And they don't have any choices. If you wanted to watch these protests today live, you couldn't get it. CNN, MSNBC, Young Turks, David Pakman, Brian Charlie Cohen. And this is not a commercial for Status Quo. I'm not paid by Status Quo. I've never met these people. This is just me being objective. I critique media, right? And that's what this video is, a massive critique, a shot across the bow of the failures of liberal and left-wing media, corporate and especially independent media. And no one wants to talk about the problems of independent media because the people who would talk about it are independent media themselves. They're not going to call themselves out, right? They'll say, well, the right wing. And even that's the thing that's interesting. You watch like a Breaking Points. They would love to talk about how bad mainstream media is. And by the way, where's Breaking Points? But anyway, they love to talk about how bad mainstream media is. Not so much about independent media, right? Every once in a while, like, Ben Shapiro, whatever, you hardly hear them talk about independent media. They tell you that legacy media is dead. Everyone's moving to independent media, right? If that's the case, why do they love to focus on the legacy, the dying media? You say it's dying, so why you keep talking about it? Why are you not talking about the stuff that people are actually watching, the stuff that's growing, right? The future and the present. I wonder why. Well, props to these guys. They have 637 comments, and you can see they're getting a lot of support. Well deserved. Well deserved. Anyway, this is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. Realize that there's so many protests today that I literally ran into one while I was live streaming talking about something else. But yet, where's progressive media? Now, some of them might post some videos in the coming days, right? But why would you cover a Trump rally live and you wouldn't cover this event live? Did you help spread the word to let people know that this was even happening? Let me ask you something. You guys that are listening, whoever you listen to, whoever you like to listen to, whoever you trust, did they tell you about the protests happening today? Did they inform you about this event? Even if they didn't cover it live, did they at least let you know? If they didn't, ask yourself why.